I'm ready to restrain myself from saying, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense.
It's true, it doesn't make sense. This is a very, very rough sketch of the city that you're in, Viginti. Viginti is the largest settlement inside of the strange magical place you're all in by the name of Locus. Locus is basically a gigantic dungeon. Some parts of it are a mystery, some parts are not a mystery. There are a couple of other smaller settlements along some of the more known paths of the dungeon, but there are also some paths of Locus that haven't been explored properly, and it's actually believed that they change over time quite drastically. You guys are in the year 1092. The calendar down here is based on time, funnily enough, but it's very difficult to keep track of time. And in the center of Viginti, in the schools of magic, there is a clock. It's the only working clock that's been there for the entire duration, and that's where they keep track of the actual time. The city was founded 1092 years ago when the people known as the settlers settled in Locus because they couldn't find a way out. You have no idea how they got into Locus, and they had no idea how to get out. But more people found their way in, and the small city of Viginti started growing rapidly. That was until around the year 41, where suddenly new people stopped coming, and Viginti was forced to reproduce and not focus on finding a way out, but focus on survival. A lot has been happening since then, and the city is quite big. About somewhere between 10 and 15,000 people live here now, and it's quite large. And as you can see on the map that I've shown you, that's a pentagram. You're not supposed to draw a pentagram in my city, but it's fine. The outer ring of Viginti, where you can see a lot of these round structures. The round structures are magical towers that have been boosted with arcane cannons made by a very well-known artificer by the name of Archibald, who is one of the leaders of the Guild of Creation in Viginti. Between each of the towers, there is a gate that leads outside of Viginti, and in between this ring and the next ring, most of the people who live there are clearers and defenders. Defenders are the people who defend the gates of Viginti, arm the cannons, and clearers are the people who go into Locus to try and find either a way out or just gather resources for survival, gather information, anything that can help, really. Some people just do it because they think it's boring in the city as well.
Kind of like Wall of Maria, but instead of farmland, that's where the soldiers are.
Yes.
So there's an additional layer. Yeah.
Which brings us to the second ring. In the second ring, most of the farms are actually located. And both farmers and factories are what is mostly in here, and a large part of the working population also lives within this ring. There is a wall here, and on each of the sides there is also a large gate that leads into the next ring. The third ring, that is here, is mostly brought on by workers. Most of the people of Viginti live there. It's where you will find the most shops and merchants. It's also where you will find a lot of the guilds. And in the inner ring of Viginti is where you will find the colleges, and you will find most of the richer part of the population, some of which have very long family histories, for example. And that's not to say most people in Viginti can trace their family history back quite far and to at least one of these families. But you're so far out from the main family that it doesn't really count that much. Any questions on the city?
Is there a particular reason for that? Like why it's not just like a single round wall instead of like being broken up between like into a flower shape?
It was made that way. The inner wall is a lot older than the rest of them, and they were made this way for aesthetic purposes more than anything. And also some practical purposes in having a lot of different ways out of the city back when the walls were built.
I imagine this entire city is like in a cave or something. Like, how
Yes.
high up do the buildings reach? Like, all the way to the top?
So actually, that's a very good question. Most of the buildings in the center reach very, very far, up to about 500 to 600 feet, and it gradually goes down from there until you get to the outer walls of the last ring, which are about 200 feet tall. And the inner cities, or the inner buildings here that are about 600 feet tall, do reach all the way up to the ceiling. Another
Okay.
thing about Viginti, that because it is located in a cave, is that there is a fake sun hovering over the city.
That's the work of the druids, I remember.
Yes, that is actually a collaboration between the druids and a transmutation wizard who is one of the archmages currently by the name of Shex Hallowthorn.
And the barriers that are protecting the walls, is that pure magic or is there also some divine magic?
There is both. There is both arcane and divine magic helping protect the walls.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is a co-op effort by the Holy Order and the Schools of Magic.
I wanted to say if there's like any sort of like caste system, as it were.
So there are poor and rich people in Viginti, but there aren't any direct castes. A lot of the poor population, some of it is racially based. There are a lot more rich elves and dwarves than there are of the races that live less of a long time, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So the races that live a very long time tend to be richer, or at least the older ones tend to be richer than the races that don't live a very long time.
Oh, so they just outlive all their business partners.
Basically,
So
yes.
they win by default.
Yeah. Also, on the very outer ring, above every single gate, the words "Do not trust the dark" is engraved before you walk out of
Do not
Viginti.
trust the duck.
The dark.
The dark. Oh,
The dark.
that makes more sense.
Yeah. And all of you guys would know based on just common knowledge here in Viginti, the dark is an fairly unknown magical power that has taken a lot of the lives in Viginti. It was partly due to the dark that Viginti is not about twice as big as it is now. The last time it showed up was about 700 years ago, around the year 300. And it killed a little over half of the population.
So obviously the city is based in a cave, right? Just a giant cave.
Yes.
How far is the cave walls from the actual city walls? Like, how much room is there to actually, for further expansion and stuff?
It depends on which direction you go, but the average would be about 200 feet in every direction.
It's not a lot.
There is not a lot of room left in the big cave that Viginti is located in. That would be about 8 miles.
That's
Yep.
much bigger than Kingdoms.
Is in terms of expansion, do they have like mining equipment set up, or do they just like
Yes.
plan on like exploring the tunnels?
So not only are people exploring the tunnels, the way that Viginti has been set up is that through the towers in the middle, workers and miners can go up, and they can also go down. Most of the tunnels that have been going into unknown or dangerous territories that go either up or down have been blocked off, simply for the protection of the city, so they can make sure that nothing crawls in from inside the city. Which is why that they have also put so many gates on, is that so you can find ways into the caves from the gates itself without having any risk of something coming in from, the wrong direction.
Are they tunnels and stuff coming from the cave on the ceiling as well?
Yes. There's tunnels everywhere, and they go up and they go down. There's a lot of tunnels. People estimate, no one has actually counted all of the tunnels outside of Viginti, but they estimate there to be about 3,000 tunnels.
Are there like sort of ever kind of natural disasters like a quake?
Oh, that's actually a funny thing. There has never been a recorded earthquake.
Huh.
The only earthquake that has ever been in Viginti was something set off on accident by an archmage. That's the only time that an earthquake has ever happened inside of the city. So there's
Oh my
been no
God.
natural disasters, but some people do think that the dark is a natural disaster. Or call it
Okay.
a natural disaster because people aren't entirely sure what it is. But it brings a lot of darkness.
Now, I don't know how exactly cramped it is within the various sections of the city, but are there any problems with like plagues or diseases, or like how do they take care of waste?
So waste is mostly taken care of by dumping it into parts of the mines that have been deemed unsafe or that people just don't want to go into. That's where people mostly get rid of waste. A lot of other waste is either burned for heat or something else. A lot of the disease in the city is handled by the Holy Order, which has priests involved as well with it.
I'm surprised it's not the Farmers Guild that don't handle the corpse.
I was gonna ask, like, what happens to all of the corpses, but, like, also purifying food and drink is a spell, so...
Yes, it is. The corpses are dumped into the mines with all the other waste.
Lol. Well, that's a waste though. Wouldn't they put the corpses, essentially mulch them and put them in the fields to provide more
Is there
nutrients?
a
Farmers would
valid-
know
Actually,
that.
that's actually a really good point, Jack. Yes, they would do that. I'm changing that
Also
information right now.
necromancy.
Yeah,
'Cause-
there's also necromancy,
Yeah,
which, by the way, is legal.
Yeah, because I understand that druids and stuff can just literally just put, like, use their magic to put nutrients and shit into the ground, but it also, I imagine it's a mix of,
Like, if
not always,
combining
we shouldn't
methods,
always use the magic, to replace if we don't have to.
A lot of what
Yeah.
you've said so far seems like it's just a whole bunch of collaboration of different kinds of efforts doing the same thing, so it makes sense that they use every effective method available to them.
Yeah, to survive.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Oh, here's a good question. So there's tritons in the city. Does that mean there's
Yes.
like a large body of water somewhere? Because no,
No.
that is
There is a source of water coming from a lake that is located above the city.
above.
But
this.
people have no idea when it's gonna run out. There used to be a lake in the city, but it's been drained.
You know what would be cool?
And where did the tritons come from?
Depression, mostly.
The dungeon.
I think they need to hydrate themselves, don't they?
Everyone needs to hydrate themselves, but Tritons don't need to live in a body of water to live. The Tritons came the way all the other races came, by dwellers showing up once upon a time. But yes, there is a large body of water located above Viginti. People have no idea if or when it's going to run out, but it's supplying them with water right now.
What's the culture of orcs in this setting? Because
It's very difficult for different races to have varying cultures here, because all of them have been here for 1,000 years together.
okay, right, but
So-
I mean more like their disposition, because typical orcs tend to be like aggressive. If there's some tension,
Probably a lot of them, like your background is, probably a lot of them go into the military side of Viginti.
Yeah. A lot of orcs are mostly focused on the more combat aspects of being here. A lot of orcs that don't do it end up being farmers or blacksmiths, but there isn't really a cultural divide between races in Viginti, because this place is just a mix of everything.
Okay, I didn't know if there were like any like races that were particularly prone to troublemaking. Maybe the shorter-lived races, if like they tend to be the poorer class.
You find criminals in every aspect. You would also find some of the longer-lived races to be criminals very easily.
Politicians are criminals, so
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's a criminal.
I mean, like, it sounds like there's a pretty, like, strong capitalistic society here, and that always means that there's people profiting off the suffering of others, and they're pretty much criminals in my eyes, so...
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely, 100%. And the worst offender of that is an elf. Fun fact.
I was also going to say, elves are
Greedy
probably one of the
elves.
only groups of people that have a distinct culture because they lived for so fucking long.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have had enough generations to
Exactly.
integrate it properly.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
I did have a question about the dark. You said that it came 700 years ago and killed half the population. Has it been, like, an ever-present thing since then, or has it just kind of come in, like, waves like that?
It hasn't been seen to the same extent since then.
Okay.
Some people have still talked about encountering the dark in caves, and they pretty much all give the same statement that being in the dark and encountering the dark is not the same thing. You know when you meet the actual dark.
Has anyone encountered the dark and survived, or is there only like...
Yeah. There have been survivors. And they're still not sure what it was.
They're still not sure.
Yeah, because, funnily enough, it's called the dark because no one can see anything. So they don't know what's going on around them, but they know that people are dying.
They know it's a sapient thing? Like it has...
They're pretty sure it's a sapient thing, but no one is entirely sure what it is. Some people speculate it's sapient and a creature that does it, and some people speculate that it's just a random magical force running around Locus.
Okay. Well, that's over my head in character, so there's not much... Okay.
That's fair.
So,
Locus itself is a very strange and mysterious place. What a lot of people look for is what people call the outside. None of you have ever seen the real outside or even what it looks like in Locus, but you know that Locus is a very tricky place full of a lot of illusion magic. And just because you see what is been heard described as a clear summer sky doesn't mean it is. And Clearest Guide to Locus, funnily enough, has a section on that. Number 26, if you think you have hit the outside, shoot an arrow at the sky. If it hits something before coming down, you're not out yet.
Yep.
That's a pretty surefire way of testing whether you're outside or not. Because people have thought that they came outside. People have even entered forests, or mountains, oceans. And if they shoot an arrow at the sky and it bounces back down, or it hits something rather, then they know they're not out yet.
Or it could be just that the barrier is so high up that arrows can't reach it.
look, the only surefire way to make sure you're outside is to go to space.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. Obvious. Because everyone can go to space whenever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you guys have never actually seen outside of Locus, or... Well, I would say that none of your characters have ever been outside of Viginti, actually. Because this is the first time that you're vetted as Clearus. But Locus is a very tricky place, and you can't trust anything you find there. Is basically the gist of it.
Right.
And I recommend you read the Clearest Guide to Locus. It's not very long.
No, it's
And
short.
the Clearest Guide to Locus edition is something that you guys can write in to add your own tips for surviving in Locus.
Oh, you're gonna have some interesting insights from Igor.
Right. So, money, gold, silver, copper, platinum, not electrum because electrum is stupid.
Best coin, fight me.
You guys might have seen one or two of these sorts of coins, but they are artifacts from a past long gone. Viginti doesn't use metal coins, they use minted granite instead, which are basically just little round slabs of granite with an imprint on them, a magical imprint that's very difficult to duplicate.
Man, food must be expensive as fuck. Spend a gold piece for a loaf of bread.
Actually, the way Viginti works is that food is shared. You don't necessarily have to buy it.
Is there
As
like
long as you live within the city and work for someone, you're going to be provided food and a place to live as well as whatever payments you might receive. That was a decision made a long time ago to make sure that the working class does not revolt and kill everyone else, because they
Communist
outnumber.
revolution. Let's go, boys.
Yeah.
Because they outnumber everyone. And even though there are some very powerful people at the top, they know that if 1,000 people storms their house, they're not going to live through it. And
might be
they
able
are
to kill
too
100 or two, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna win. And the rich have been very aware of that, and that's something that has been made as a rule, is that as long as you do something for the good of Viginti, you're going to be able to take care of yourself, essentially. It might not be the best or most comfortable place you live or the best food that you eat, but you're not going to go hungry.
they're like nobles and whatnot in the city then?
No.
No nobles.
There aren't any official nobles, but there are people richer than others. And there are also people that are elected officials to help run the city in the large terms of things.
So is that
Rise
like
up,
a
my brothers and sisters, and
running
let's
it?
eat the elites.
So the three biggest people that are currently running the city is a... I may have made a mistake in my notes here. 1 second. I've definitely made a mistake in my notes because I wrote down that she's a furball, and that's not right.
Jeez, furball.
Because furballs are part of my world! She is supposed to be a water genasi. My bad.
Furbolg not part of your world?
No.
I'm changing my race to Furbolg.
No, you're not. Because then you don't exist. And then
Good.
you're a paradox, and you disappear immediately. And then you have to
Well,
reroll
I
your
imagine
character.
if he's a paradox, that would just like explode everything, because a paradox can't exist in a state of existence.
All Furbolgs live on floor.
It's true. So there are three main people in charge of running Viginti currently, and they have been somewhat not really elected because there wasn't a vote for it, but they are three of the most rich people, and they are also three of the most popular people for various reasons. The first one is Triskarin Cedarvale. She is a water genasi, and she is one of the leaders of the Guild of Farmers. She is basically the person responsible for revolutionizing farming in Viginti. She was the one who came up with the idea of creating a fake sun, and she provided a lot of the funds to be able to do so, essentially. She made sure that it could happen. And on that note, the second person, who is mostly in charge, is the wizard by the name of Shex Hallowthorn, Coog's old character from my other game. He is considered the Archmage of the School of Magic, also because of his invention of the fake sun, which was mostly his credit because it was mostly his work. And the third person is the Triton by the name of Vimnis Rabensath.
Woo!
Partly because of his fame, not because of any riches or anything, but because he is an incredibly well-known person in Viginti. There is a lot of people who have stories revolving him, and he is also one of the most successful clearers that Viginti has ever seen. He's mostly retired by now due to him being pretty old at this point, so he doesn't go clearing in Locus anymore, but he used to. But he is also one of the main people in charge of both the combatants and the Holy Order, and is in charge of essentially training the most powerful people, or most powerful, fighters and such. But those are the three main people who are in charge of the logistics of Viginti. some of you that have given me backstories already have some other people that you know about in Viginti. And you can always provide me more backstory for more people that you might know. But those are the three main important in politics-wise.
The most
Wow.
prominent clear teams so far. Like, what's our competition like?
So the most prominent group right now is one known as the Blue Fire Group. They consist of a cleric, a paladin, a sorcerer, and a barbarian. They're the ones that make the longest trips and bring back the most stuff.
Wow, how very creative.
Yeah. The Blue Fire Group name comes from the sorcerer, who is well known for her blue fire.
Fire
Blue.
not blue. Fire very clearly yellow, orange.
Not hers. Her fire blue. Very strong fire. Burn good.
Hmm.
But that would be the biggest competition to you guys right now. Being a clearer is not really about the competition, it's just about bringing back stuff.
Yeah, that's what
Finding stuff out.
That's what weak teams say. No, it's all about the competition, man. We have to be the absolute best, and if we're not, we can always poison the food.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay.
As you all are clearers, because you're going to be a group, you all have a barrack just for your group, which is basically the third floor of a small building that you have, which consists of a kitchen and a room for each of you. And a toilet, which is a bucket.
Lovely.
The
Yes.
toilet is a bucket.
The toilet is a bucket. The setup here is that all of you guys within the past year has basically passed the bar to become a clearer. And in doing so, you have been told to wait until you have a group assigned. And when a group is assigned, someone will come get you.
So, like, how common of a sight is a monkey?
Depends where you hang out. If you hang out a lot in the Explorers Guild, you would see a lot of monkeys.
So, like, would the average Joe know what a monkey is?
Yes.
Okay.
You've seen them around just from, explorers running around
the real
with their
question is-
pets.
Would people know what a Goralon is?
Yes.
Oh.
They've seen those before, and they are quite well domesticated animals in the Explorers Guild.
Huh. Okay.
It's a rare sight, but people would know about them. If they've ventured out towards the Explorers Guild, they would have seen them. You also have a room at whatever other guild you're going to be employed at, and the rooms at your guilds are normally a little nicer than the ones you have from the clearers. The clearers is pretty shitty, honestly. Or whatever you're employed at, basically.
But I live outside anyway, wherever there's,
Yeah, I mean, you can choose to, sleep on the streets if you want to. There are homeless people in Viginti. That's mostly because they don't want to work, that they're homeless.
It's not that I don't want to work, but it's just, I must be more in tune with my inner animal.
Guys,
Well,
bring me more
yeah,
questions while Jack finishes.
No, I'm decently close.
Can I use the bathroom?
You mean the bucket? Or
Bucket.
I'm going to say no.
Oh man.
Well,
Because I
that
am
sucks,
a
because
mean
I'm going
person.
to the bathroom.
You're allowed to, Klaus, it's fine.
Come on.
Of course you could use the fucking bathroom, Jesus Christ!
this is like school
What kind of-
over again.
What kind of monster do you think I am?
All right, I'll be right back.
So Paragon Patricia is also in this city, and he is actually one of the leaders of the Creators Guild. He is the leader of the cooking part. He is also a clearer. Don't get me wrong, he is a fucking force to be reckoned with his pan. And it's been said that he can cook a monster just by hitting it hard enough with his pan.
It is also he definitely has like bad rep because every single person that eats at his restaurant never wants to eat anything else ever again.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's too good. It's too good.
Yeah.
You can no,
People-
you cannot go back to steak after you've tried Paragon steak.
Paragon is also basically the inventor of fine dining in Viginti. He is the he is the Paragon Patissier, and there's a reason he has that name, because he is the best chef that has ever existed in Viginti.
Paragon
And he
is not
revolutionized cooking.
He's
I
the
hope
one
I
who-
did him good, Ollie.
Well, that's pretty much what his ultimate goal was to be. Well, there's always a higher level for him, but
Yeah. Yeah, Paragon Patissier is not happy with his cooking most of the time, and he is even more angry when his students fuck up his recipes.
Oh my god, he's like Gordon Ramsay.
He's like Gordon Ramsay, except he's not afraid to cook his students.
Cool.
No.
I think he'd go that far. Is there a Percival in this timeline?
Yes, there is a Percival. And he is one of the top-ranking members of the Ragers Guild.
Oh,
He's a rager.
Yep. Rager and Holy Order are his two affiliations, but he's higher in the Ragers Guild than the Holy Order.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily know him, but I imagine as a barbarian, I'm somewhat at least involved with the Ragers, so I've had history with them.
Yeah. You would have had some history and some training there, but you don't have to have had much else other than that. I mean, that's basically the extent of becoming a barbarian in this world, is that you have some sort of affiliation with the Ragers. You don't have to, but it makes sense in character to
Right.
explain why you rage. But if you want to flavor your rage as just transformation, because you're Path of the Beast, you can do that and avoid the rages altogether. That's entirely up to you. But you can have it either way you want. But you can't have both ways. You can't be involved and not involved.
Right.
Because that's physically impossible.
Unless at one point he was involved, but then he left them because their way did not fit in the way of the monk guy.
I don't know how well do the Ragers fit in with the way of the monkey.
Oh, the Ragers would fit in pretty well because they are batshit crazy.
Okay, well then I'd probably still be, even though I'm probably working for Explorers as part of the deal, I'd probably still have some level of involvement, or try to.
Yeah, I mean, you can go there to train and fight people, and people would more than happily fist fight you there as well. Like, if you just want someone to beat up or be beat up by, you go to the Ragers, because they are all about that. The Ragers are very much about just brutal fighting technique as well. So if you can grapple someone and break their neck, that's them you go to learn that.
Can you hire them to go beat up someone?
What
You can't hire the guild, but you could probably find one of them and hire him to beat someone up, yes.
In fact, not even hire. Can I go to one and go like, hey, this guy told me you punch like a bitch. Prove me that you don't.
He would probably punch you, more than likely. And don't
Yeah,
say
be
that
like-
to the Black Dragon Bong hanging out with the Rages.
They were wrong. they lied to me.
Because Iron Paragon is also part of this world. He's not a pugilist anymore, but he is a barbarian. The only reason he is so high ranking in the Rages is because he beat anyone who told him what to do.
I
Basically-
feel like there's a small bit of
That was-
projection here.
Really? How? How? How could there be that? There's also a guy in the schools of magic by the name of Ketra. He is a necromancer and the leader of the necromancy department.
So how much is what the clearers discover common knowledge?
Oh, people speculate they have about 50 miles of tunnel that they know well, heading in one direction, and about 30 miles of tunnel heading in another direction. And that's what's well known.
That's not a lot for 1,000 years of,
No,
travel.
it isn't. It's really
Well-
fucking dangerous.
And it changes, so...
Some of it changes. The part that they know about are the parts that doesn't seem to change.
When it comes to, like, actually clearing things, like, whenever you send off a new group of clearers, like, what is roughly the chance of, like, you expecting them to come back?
Oh, about a third of new groups come back.
Cool!
Oh,
That
for a
would
1 in
be
3 chance. That's not bad.
No,
Don't
it's
die,
not!
guys.
You guys have a lot of better than 1 in 3 chance because you're the protagonists.
Alright, so we have a 4 in 3 chance of coming back, guys. We got this. We're gonna make a friend out there.
One of us is going to die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Most of the time, it's either one person or the entire group that makes it back. When they send out a new group of clearers. But the clearers that make their first trip, more than often not, makes a second trip as well.
Are there dragons in the maze? Or in the tunnels?
There have been dragons spotted, yes. And Vim is actually, in his house, has a dragon skull hanging above his door that you guys would have seen passing by it.
And he'll spread the stories of how he single-handedly conquered it.
Actually, he was
Regardless of the truth.
with
Regardless
Paragon
of the truth.
Patissi. He was with Paragon Patissi, yeah? And he got stuck in his syrup on the dragon and stabbed it to death.
Great moment.
Yep.
So, what about in both Celestials and Infernos? Like, I know there's, like, some taboo against, like, summoning demons, obviously, but...
Summoning devils and demons seems to be very, very difficult. And there aren't any devils that are known by name. But there have been devil summonings in the city before. And there have been fiends and demons and celestials spotted in Locus as well.
Do they even have access, like, outside of Locus, or are they trapped as well?
Though most of the time they seem very, very hostile. And it's not... None of them have been able to answer how to get out, basically. And on that note, as well, there are some banned spells.
Ooh.
Oh.
Banned
I
spells.
can't wait to take all of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be useless because they wouldn't work. Teleportation spells.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So
Except-
banned as in, like,
except-
the game,
except-
not the...
Except for Misty Step, Thunder Step, and Dimension Door.
So what you should clarify that as long-range teleportation spells.
Yeah, exactly. Also Banishment and Plane Shift. Not a thing. They don't work, and they are basically lost knowledge because they don't work, so no one bothered writing them down again. I'm not going to bother too much with carry weight and the likes. I just ask that we keep it, somewhat realistic. So, you're not going to drag around a, I don't know, gold statue of a dwarf or something.
Did you see that?
Holy shit!
Did you see that?
Yes,
Did you see
I
that
do! God damn! That means you have 39 hit points? God damn.
Maximum HP.
That's fucking good. Cool. On the note of stuff, you guys also all have a light globe.
Yes.
A light globe is basically a drift globe. It can follow you and levitate. It can't do any wacky daylight shenanigans or anything like that. It just functions as a torch that follows you. And that is a gift all of you were given when you became clearers.
Does it just constantly fall? Does it ever turn off, or like how?
You can turn it off, yeah. There's a button on the side.
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
is it at a fixed distance from you at all times, or is it like
It's
can
like
adjust
right
it?
above your shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah. So it follows you around and it moves basically as fast as you do.
Gotcha.
I will be constantly poking it.
Yeah, I mean, you can, and it moves a little bit and then wiggles back into place.
Hmm.
Monkey orb.
Monkey.
I just don't know how much ape speak I actually should be doing.
I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah. Fair point. Okay.
If you want to go hoo hoo ha 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 all the time, you're welcome to.
I imagine that'd get pretty annoying fast, because nobody
Yeah.
would understand.
Yeah, it would. It would be like a Kenku. Except worse.
Yeah. Honestly, if I would play a Kenku, I would just play it off like he's recorded like specific like sounds that make it sound like vaguely words, but it sounds weird. Like, oh, my name is Fergus. I saw a fine thing over, like that sort of talk, you know?
Yeah.